Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Kenny. I'm one analyst here at Trade Tips. Today we're going to be doing a short video on supports and resistances and how we can use them for our trading. Okay, so in general, supports and resistances, they are typically levels or zones in which price can react from, okay? So when we're talking about supports and resistances, they almost essentially mean the same except for where they are located. So if price is above and it goes below and it gets and it bounces from it, well, the price that it's bouncing from is going to be called a support. So this right here would be our support. So price comes down, it acts a little bit right in here, and then if it actually ends up being a true support, you'll see that price bounces from it. If we're talking about resistances, resistance are where price goes up to it, and after a little while it reacts in the resistance zone, and then it causes it to reject. Okay, so when we look for these supports and resistances, what we do want to see is on a smaller time scale. If we get not just one or two. So let's say we have price action that does this. We can see here we have a price that rejects once, price that rejects twice. If we extrapolate it out, 2 points are good, but typically we want to see 3 bounces in order for us to say that this counts as a true support or resistances. Of course, the more bounces you have, the more stronger or more reactive it is. So in general, we want to look for areas and where we can have price reflect off of these zones. We do want to give you guys a rule of thumb. Now, when it comes to supports and resistances, these can actually flip. What do I mean by that? So if, for example, we have what we call a breakout, that's actually when price comes up to resistance and it actually it goes in here, almost doesn't act like it reacts or anything, and then when it comes down, it's going to then bounce. Well, when we say that price bounces from something, we don't actually call that a resistance anymore. That resistance now becomes a new support. Okay, so when it comes to a breakout, I actually do label these into 3 phases. The first phase, of course, is going to be the breakout. So when we have the breakout phase, we want to see if price actually truly breaks out and actually crosses above the zone that was super important for us before. The next important phase is going to be what I call the retest. So the retest, I want to see price come down and actually test this former resistance and see if it actually acts as support. And usually during the retest phase, that's actually when we go ahead and actually enter in on most of our trades for the retest. And then if we do have a continuation, I just call that the continuation phase. Now, just to reiterate again, if we actually see a breakout, I actually want to see price break out and do a retest and actually hold that support. If it ends up breaking down again and that resistance ends up actually rejecting the price, what you'll find is that usually we call that a false breakout, and when that happens again, this support acts again as a new resistance. Okay, so price, for example, comes in here, and if it does that false breakout and we see the resistance zone actually resist again, then that is something to note. We do not want to be in the trade if the resistance keeps acting as a resistance, okay? Especially if we're going long in this trade. So enough with that theoretical stuff. Let's actually go back. Let's go into a real chart and see how this can relate. So if we look over here, I think let's go ahead and label some important zones or resistances supports or resistances we can find. One important zone is we have one where price comes in here, comes up, rejects, comes up, rejects, comes up, rejects. That is 3 points right there. 1, 2, 3. And I can label that as a resistance zone, okay? So if we go ahead and just do something like this, you can either type it out, which actually would just be too much work, or sometimes, sometimes I would like to, I color code these, say that, you know, red is for resistance, green is maybe support. All up to you on how you guys want to do your charting, but that's just those are some neat little tricks you guys can do to help be a little bit organized with your charts. I'm going to expand this a little bit so I can kind of see what I'm seeing. And we talked about how supports and resistances don't actually always need to be lines, they can actually be zones. And especially when we have price that, for example, in here, react and totally cause this big rejection. Sometimes there's not going to be enough points up here in order for us to give us any valuable information. So sometimes I like to just make a zone where it could be approximately here if it were to be there. So I want to go ahead and actually label this as a resistance zone because we all can probably admit that this this price area was super important because it caused a rejection to lose this much in the market. So this is, by the way, for QQQ. It's just like the SPY, except it's going to be more tech heavy. This is a ETF, which is a value, which is going to be a kind of like a basket of stocks that holds. That kind of is a way for us to diversify if we were to actually trade stock instead. So if, for example, what I'm going to do here for my resistance zone is I'm actually take this candle body, take it all the way up to the wick and expand it out. And that could be my resistance zone right there. So it looks like in our time of shooting this video, we did have that first phase where we did have that breakout, and look over here. So this used to be a previous resistance zone. And so just as a little review, if this is our resistance zone and it's crossing through, then we're actually going through the 3 phases right now. So this is where I want to see, like, okay, we have this little breakout. Great. Now maybe if I expand it or kind of like go on a 4-hour chart and kind of see what ends up happening here. So if that's the breakout, then the next phase right here is, again, we got right here we have number 2, the retest. And so this is where I would actually typically buy, and we actually entered in one of our QQQ trades earlier this week. And from here we want to see if we actually get this continuation. And on a new video, in the next video, we're probably going to be talking about how we can, without any supports and resistances, we can base off of how we can use things called like Fibonacci's to help us find take profit zones or places where we can trim our position. So this is one of the places that we can. This is just one example where we can find a resistance that has previously a support that has previously acted as a resistance. Why don't we go ahead and look at a couple more charts just so we can get a good feel for this. Let's go ahead and look at Ethereum. So we basically had over the weekend some news that happened with crypto, and Ethereum was one of the coins that dropped during that dump. If we were to go to chart back to something, we do have this resistance, because when price entered up here, totally rejected. When price entered back here, rejected again. And if we actually were to plot this, we would see we would see that this is going to be our resistance area. And if we make this a little zone, maybe I'll go ahead and try to take the bottom, which includes this part of the wick, and then maybe includes and then the top of my zone would probably be to the top of this wick. Go ahead and expand it out. And then you'll see that in here we had Ethereum, which dropped down. And where did it end up landing? So after the big dump, it didn't just continue dumping. It looks like it would find a place that could that it could bounce off of. And if we were to actually be a little bit more more lenient with the support zone, we could have said that this area would have been a good support. This entire area would be a good support. And if you were to have bought here at the 2000s, you know, you would have had a you could have had a profit of up to 13% on this trade if you were to do this on Ethereum. So it doesn't really matter if we're doing forex or if we're doing cryptocurrency or if we're doing stocks. Anything that has a digital based market where we can actually put lines on the chart or make areas of resistances or supports, that's where technical analysis really can help us. It's allows us to find zones where we can have like high probability setups or high probability trades for us to look for. That's not the only thing that that we can also look for. So for example, one of the trades that I'm looking and eyeing out for is in gold, where in the past we've had this place where this acted as support, and you know, a second time, and then after that it what's it called? This is an area where I would expect that we see some resistance. So the question is here for gold, is this place acted as a previous support, and you know, once it's a support, then we know that this is now a resistance. And we recently broke through with gold, but with an indecisive candle. So what I'm going to be looking for is, are we actually going to get a slight continuation? And if so, that's just going to be part of the number one, that breakout phase. And then if I do see a pullback from this zone on the retest, that is where I'll probably buy for us to go long, hoping that we can go for a continuation move with gold. Specifically, GLD is the ticker symbol for this. So with that being said, we also can look down in the chart over here where price actually came down and it bounced. We also know that because that's a place where price bounced, we can create a zone for this too. I like to take it from the top of the body of the wick to the top of the body to the bottom of the wick. That can help us create a support zone over here. And this is usually where I like to enter in trades for us to go long, is previous places where price has bounced from, and that can be a level of support for us. And then over here, this is going to be the equivalent of looking at for resistance, where, you know, I'll probably take it from the bottom of the wick probably to the top of the candle body again, and this is an important resistance zone for us. If I really wanted to, I guess if we do see a rejection here, I could play this potentially short. It really depends on the price action. And so that is something I'm going to be going to watch for in next week, is to watch what happens with gold. Do I actually get this rejection and probably continuation down for the rejection, or do we see a breakout and then I might buy on the pullback so that we can play on the continuation? So usually when it's doing something like this, we call this the no man's land, where there's nothing to be done except just to watch. And then once we see which direction it chooses, that's where we can decide whether we want to go long or short. So with that being said, if you guys have any questions, let us know in the comments down below. You can actually do this for all of these charts. You know, you can find supports and resistances everywhere. For example, price here came up, and if we were to take this as a resistance zone, look, we found that price ended up rejecting here. So these guys can be found everywhere, guys. Go ahead and have fun with it. Like I said again, if you have any questions, don't be scared to let us know, and we'll be happy to help. And with that being said, this is hope you guys took a little bit of value from this, and we'll see you guys in the next video.